Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Brandin Podziemski. We got a packed show lined up for you guys today. Starting right off the top, we're going to talk a little bit about the Golden State Warriors-Houston Rockets matchup last night. A massive Game 4 there. The Warriors taking a 3-1 commanding lead over the Houston Rockets. A must-win game for the Houston Rockets that most likely spells their defeat in this series, whether it's in 5 games and 6 games, but for a young Houston Rockets team, this Golden State Warriors team might just be too much for them to handle offensively, and similar to what we're seeing with the Detroit Pistons as well as the I'm blanking on the other team. Jesus. As well as the Orlando Magic in the Eastern Conference, with how young they are, with how potent they are defensively. When they go up against offensive teams like the Boston Celtics, like the Golden State Warriors, they have a tough time matching up with them offensively and keeping up with that pace, making especially down the stretch when it comes down to experience mattering more than ever down the stretch in fourth quarters in close games. We saw it last night with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry. We see it with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And the Houston Rockets could be done in this series. We're gonna recap that whole game though before we get into any of the who's gonna win this series, who's gonna win that series. So, that's how we're gonna start the show, and then from there we're gonna take a look at we're gonna see. Funny enough, we're going to keep talking about the Warriors. We're going to see who actually has who has a better chance of coming back from 3-1 down. Is it the Los Angeles Lakers or is it the Houston Rockets in this series? We're going to talk a little bit about both of them, how the matchups end up landing, how the cards end up falling. And obviously, we'll talk a little bit more during that segment about both of these teams. And from there, we're going to take a look at the Cleveland Cavaliers finishing off their series sweep on the Miami Heat last night. What's next for the Miami Heat? We're hearing rumors about Pat Riley possibly stepping down as the executive for the Miami Heat, one of the top premier executives of the Eastern Conference and in general in NBA history. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then, honestly, from there, we're going to talk a little bit about Game 5 tonight between the Clippers and Denver Nuggets, and then preview the other 3-1 series going on across the NBA later tonight. But before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions that come from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list, so I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But getting right into it here, we had one of the best games of these playoffs last night between the Golden State Warriors and Houston Rockets. The Warriors obviously are favorites to win this series based off their experience. Obviously, they have Steph Curry on their team. They just added playoff Jimmy Butler in a midseason trade and have been a completely different team since the trade transpired. Playoff Jimmy Butler has meant everything for this organization, and having him back in the lineup after him missing Game 3, getting injured in Game 2, being out in Game 3, Steph Curry really carrying the show there, but ultimately Golden State also winning that game. This game was absolutely crucial for the Houston Rockets. Down 2-1. I apologize for that. Down 2-1. Trying to come back. And trying to even up the series, going back to Houston in desperation mode, trying to even up the series, because for a young team like this team, going down 3-1 would most likely end their season, most likely end their playoff hopes. In a game where Steph Curry only had 17 points in the game, it was honestly the play of Jimmy Butler and Brandin Podziemski. Brandin Podziemski, I was here on this show yesterday previewing this series, and I said they need somebody like a Brandin Podziemski, a Buddy Hield, to step up if Jimmy Butler is not in the role. I thought Jimmy Butler is going to be out until Game 5, Game 6 most likely, based off his injury, just simply because of how much pain it looked, how painful it looked, as well as the reports that came out that he has barely any mobility right now. to have almost no mobility, not even referring to painkillers, not being able to, when you're running, jumping, shooting the basketball, playing physical playoff basketball. If you have almost no mobility, being able to move, what do you expect it to do in this league? So that's just the current situation for Jimmy Butler, and I was shocked to see him playing last night. But Brandin Podziemski stepping up in a massive, massive game for him. A game that we've been really looking for Brandin Podziemski to have a statement game. We saw a bunch of them in the regular season, and as a young player, as like Brandin Podziemski is, we knew it was going to take some time for him to get his feet under him, get some confidence in his shot, deal with a little bit about how the playoff games the game of basketball slows down in the playoffs. Dealing with the little bit of physicality, dealing with the defensive prowess that the Houston Rockets wing defenders have. Overall, we knew I thought it was going to take some time, but we knew it was eventually coming. We knew it was coming. We just didn't know when. And he arrived last night in Game 4 in a big way and delivered in a much needed win. And not even. They were up 2-1 in the series, so there's an argument to be had that the Warriors had the momentum and they were on a trajectory to win this series. But Podziemski kind of sucked the life out of Houston last night. Whether Houston wins Game 5 and forces a Game 6, I don't think this series gets pushed past Game 6 now. In the series, I originally thought to go 7 games in favor of Golden State. We're now cut. It's now going to be cut to 6, if not 5 games. So that's just my take on it. I personally think this Warriors team is on one of the best teams in the league right now. They're on a different level than almost any other team. They're two-headed monster in Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, and their ability to create their own shots is like something I'm trying to compare it to a duo I've ever seen. To play the way they have, I mean, in a way, they're playing in a way. Jimmy, if I say this, you guys are gonna crucify me. So I may not say what I was about, what I was on the thought that was on the tip of my tongue. But this Golden State Warriors team is overall one of the best teams in the league. And for them to deal with this Houston Rockets defense, this stifling defense that brought them to the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, that brought them to 53 wins in the regular season, it's nothing short of remarkable. And the turnaround that this Warriors team has had, they continue to control their own destiny and continue to right the critics wrong. There were a lot of people that picked the Houston Rockets to knock off the Golden State Warriors in this series, and it's just good to see. It's just good to see to see this Warriors team just turn that whole narrative around in their own favor. And I don't know. This was an unbelievable game. Draymond Green starting it hot, hitting 2 threes back-to-back to start out the game. And then it was just the pick and roll between Draymond Green, Brandin Podziemski, and Steph Curry. Late in the game, it was the Jimmy Butler show in the fourth quarter, him getting to the free throw line and hitting massive threes. Just being overall clutch, as we know Jimmy Butler to be. One of the funnier moments of the game, Jimmy Butler getting into the face of Dillon Brooks, something we usually see vice versa, Dillon Brooks trying to get into the head of the star players. It was Jimmy Butler just standing next to him on the free throw line. I believe it was Steph Curry shooting free throws late in the second quarter, and Jimmy Butler just barking at him. I would repeat what he said in that moment, but I also don't want anybody to get. We just got to keep it a little family friendly here. So those clips are everywhere online, but it was a funny moment. I would I'd 100% go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. But Jimmy Butler finishing with 27 points in this one, going 12 of 12 from the free throw line, 7 of 12 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3-point range. He's still just he's not using the 3-point shot as much, but when he does utilize it, he tries to be as effective and consistent as he can with it. And yeah, this Warriors team is just looks like they're built for a deep playoff run right now. If Brandin Podziemski can continue to grow into number 3 role going into the next round of the playoffs, whether they face the Los Angeles Lakers or face the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next segment. I think this... I like the Warriors' chances in any series, really. No, I like them in any series. Even in the finals, if they went up against Boston, I still think Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Brandin Podziemski, I think this team can beat anybody. Plain and simple. They can beat anybody. They can go all the way and win the whole West. They can win the NBA championship this year. And if they did, that's a whole other conversation in terms of Steph Curry, where it lands him in the conversation, where it lands Jimmy Butler and his legacy argument. Overall, there's a lot of aspects of this story, and it's a great story unfolding in front of our very eyes right now with this Golden State Warriors team. But yeah, the true question is, where does the Houston Rockets go from here? And while that's a little topic for another day, we can touch on it a little bit now. I think Ime Udoka continues to grow with this team. I think they definitely need another offensive star to pair with Jalen Green, to pair with Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün. I think they have a great young core group of guys. Whether they bring in a Kevin Durant, a Ja Morant, maybe a Giannis Antetokounmpo, a Damian Lillard if he's still on the market, if he ends up leaving Milwaukee after his Achilles injury a couple days ago in Game 4 in their series against the Indiana Pacers. Regardless of what happens, the Houston Rockets have a bright future in front of them, regardless of how this series plays out. It feels very eerily similar to how the Sacramento Kings series went back in 2023. I watched over the weekend. That's literally the thought that came to my head, is how eerily similar this playoff series reminds me in terms of physicality, shooting wise. Steph Curry being able to create a shot and destroying the opposition's momentums. It's just eerily similar to how the Warriors dismantled the Sacramento Kings back in 2023. And this time the Warriors have Jimmy Butler with them, so they're even more of a potent offense, even more of a potent defense, even more of a potent overall team. That is how good this Warriors team is right now. And major props to them. And the X factor of this series will continue to be Brandin Podziemski in my eyes, I'd say. Even though we know Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler can carry the load whenever they want. Brandin Podziemski, just great to see him as a young player continuing to grow and prosper into that number 3 role, into that Austin Reeves-esque role for the Golden State Warriors. But I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at we're going to ask the question, who has a better chance of coming back from 3-1 down? Is it the Houston Rockets in this series, or is it the Los Angeles Lakers against the Minnesota Timberwolves? I know we're talking about the Lakers. We have been talking about a little bit about the Lakers, but I promise this is going to be a real segment here. We're going to give a dive. We're going to give a deep dive look into both of these teams, into both of these series, how the matchups have been playing out. We've been talking a lot about the Lakers these last couple days, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Houston Rockets as well. I'll take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at those two series.